Hello, you're listening to the State of Potentiality podcast.
You lost your job.
A sudden death.
Surprise! You're pregnant!
Any of those sound familiar?
It's out of the blue and completely out of your control.
Still, the next move is yours. The State of Potentiality dives down deep, navigating whatever life throws your way.
And using that to come out the other side bigger, better, and stronger. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
What will you make of it?
Thank you so much, Faisal, for coming on the State of Potentiality podcast with me today. Faisal and I started working together at a program called Strive. It was a day program just before COVID. I mean, you were probably there a lot longer than I was. I was there just 6 weeks before COVID hit. And I remember having a very positive conversation with you while we were working with our clients. And I've just had you in my mind of someone I wanted to interview because your story really intrigues me. And I'm excited to learn more about what you've been through and where you are today. So, Faisal, how have you come to be where you are today?
Well, first of all, thank you, Sarah, for having me on the podcast. I love what you're doing right now. It's an amazing initiative. So big thumbs up to you.
Thank you.
And so what got me here was, I guess I'd put it this way, sort of like a search for myself, I grew up in India, so big country, community, society, everything is important, right? Mm-hmm. But where's the individual in it? And I'm not saying it's necessary for a person to leave India to get individual growth. There were people back home who were already on that path. But for me, for personal reasons, I could not even get started on that path to realize my true potential, to realize what I was truly capable of, or even grow for that matter. Just being on my own, which is something that really interested me for a long time through my 20s. And, I always wanted to take off to a different part of the country, start from scratch and experience people. Because I'm a chatty person, I'm a chatterbox, I'm a social person. And that is what I felt helped me grow internally. Just communicating. Communication has been a huge part of my life. And it is the reason why we are even having this podcast. It's because I spoke to you, right? So yes. There you go. That brought me here to Canada. And I came for education purposes. Love the country. I'm a proud citizen now. And this country has accepted me as I am. I feel there haven't been any judgments based on character and personality. So that's where I'm at right now, existing and just being grateful for life. Yeah,
I love that. And, I love that you're open to personal growth and that you were working on that, because I personally believe that when you're connecting with yourself, you're able to see other people in a different light. You're able to connect with other people in a different light. And you just seemed like such a genuine person. You saw that I was struggling with one of the clients and you came over and checked on me and we started to share our stories. I don't remember how we got interrupted, but, you said you came over from Canada, from India, which is a huge, that takes courage to make a move like that. Were you alone? Did you come with family? What kind of thoughts were going through your head as you moved? What was that like?
All right. So my family wasn't really, they weren't really happy about this decision that I took to move, to be honest. But over a period of time, through my mid-20s, they realized that I reached sort of like a crisis where, I couldn't move. I was just so stuck. They could sense that physically and mentally. He's just stuck. He's not moving ahead career-wise. And And at that point, I had to put it down in front of my parents about how I wanted to leave and study, move abroad, and basically have an education, get my master's. And my mom, my late mother, she understood that because she saw that her child wasn't happy, So she supported me in that. But I want to add something here that I literally had to convince my parents that how badly I wanted it. And that's where my belief in manifestation and working on dreams comes from, And apart from that, I had a friend in the States, sort of like an online friend, who had told me about the concept of, if you have goals and aims in life, how you can actually make them come true. Mm-hmm. And for me, I was such a negative person. Everything, like where life had got me till my mid-20s, I was pretty pessimistic about everything. I always would be like, oh, this probably won't work. That was my go-to philosophy for anything or any initiative I took. So that sort of changed my life, where the friend told me about certain literature, videos to check out about manifestation of dreams and goals and how you can yourself bring about that change in your life, right? So began with that, convinced my parents. Coming back to the topic, I tend to fly around a bit, but it's very important for me to present that as well, so you understand. I mean, it's important for the listeners to know too that everything is not internal. It's also about a human being absorbing the external, right? So that's what happened. And I was September 2011. I was here in Canada, in good old Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, at the University of Saskatchewan. Go Huskies. Yeah, I was there, and thus began my journey in Canada.
Wow, so you started up in Saskatchewan. Okay,
yes.
So I want to know how you came to be in Hamilton. But I love that you talked about your parents for a little bit, and how sometimes it can be hard for people, especially that you're close to, that you love, your family, that you're trying to convince them to do something different than what they expect you to do. A lot of even just my clients will say, I am feeling stuck because I want to honor and love my parents, but I also want to do something different. And you also left your home. And I want to echo how important that is. It's scary. And, I always encourage people to get out of your comfort zone, to leave your home. You can always come back. It doesn't mean that you're leaving forever or that you're going against, your family's traditions or cultures. It's such a great way to discover who you are and what you want to do with your life internally.
Absolutely.
And then externally. As someone who didn't leave home till I was like 24, I traveled the world, but I kept coming back to this comfort zone and going back to old habits. For me, I needed to leave. I needed to get out, and I encourage everyone to do that at least one point in their life so they get to discover who they actually truly are. So you're talking about manifestation, your dreams and your goals, and you went from being a negative person, thinking this probably won't work, to then changing and shifting your perspective. What happened in that? I would love to know.
So as with everything in life that we learn, anything that we try to learn, which is new to us, it takes time, right? And that goes for this philosophy of manifesting your dreams and working towards your goals. It doesn't happen overnight. So I was still negative for a long time. And that led me to a path so I had more time since I moved to Canada. I was alone for a while. So I would spend a lot of time thinking. And I was always like that through life. From a very young age, I didn't mind sitting in silence, right? Which a lot of my cousins they found it super weird. Like I would sit in a room, and I'd be playing music, and I'd just lie down there, not sleeping, awake, And later on, I realized what I had been doing. I had actually that was my coping strategy for my anxiety all my life. Sitting in a room, a dark room, playing some music, and just, lying down. This is what I did to sort of recharge my batteries. So, yeah. So when you're asking what change happened, first and foremost, they say, for every great change to happen, you have to look within, right? Yeah. So, which is what led me to certain academic issues that came up here in Canada, made me want to look at what the problem was with me. And I wouldn't call it a problem. I would just look at it as an obstacle, right? Mm-hmm. And that was anxiety. And, coming from a society like a South Asian society, probably now they do look at anxiety in a serious way. But back in the day, they would just be like, you just stress out too much. Those phrases. Yeah. Why do you get so stressed? You're such a stress pot. They use words like that. But it's only people with anxiety who will realize what truly goes on through their heads, right? Yeah. So I had to work on my anxiety. I had to actively stop my thought process going into the darkness. So it takes some time to regulate your thoughts, it takes some time, but you will eventually get there. And it begins with a simple example would be, this is back in my student days when I didn't have a car and I would be going to a bus stop. You miss the bus, right? Yeah. So you immediately go into, why is my life like this? I miss class. I'm such a bad student. So this is my mind, how it would go. Oh, what am I going to do? I'm not as good as the others. Like immediately you start spiraling. Yes. So it began with me going 5 minutes into the thought process and suddenly, wait, what am I talking to myself? To slowly 2 minutes, a minute. And slowly it came to a point where it takes me a couple of seconds to realize, hey, you better not go that way, because what I've seen personally is it doesn't help, especially with anxiety. That's the truth. But, I would like to appreciate the other people who, sort of struggle with it every day. Me, I probably think I'm on the lower spectrum for anxiety and the struggles that I have. There are other people that need medication, a higher dosage of medication to deal with it, right? So a lot of respect, a lot of love for those guys. But for me, it all began with realizing where I'm struggling and working on strategies to handle those obstacles.
That is so good. And I want to even just echo how you changed the narrative, how you changed the words, because, our thoughts are so powerful. And to even become aware that you're thinking negatively and there needs to be a change is so key. I think we underestimate self-awareness. I believe with self-awareness, when you get to that point where you realize, okay, this isn't working for me or something needs to change, it's so powerful because then you bring it out and kind of observe it. Like thoughts and especially negative thoughts, what we need to realize is that they are just thoughts. We don't have to believe them, but it's getting to that self-awareness of knowing, okay, this negative thought that this probably won't work, it doesn't actually have to belong to you. You can change the narrative and believe that it will work, that things are possible, that you can go after your goals and dreams. But I love how you said, a problem I had, and then you corrected it to an obstacle, because there is such a key example of you can change the narrative. Because if you believe that it's an obstacle, it changes how you go about it as opposed to thinking you have a problem, right? And I think we do that so naturally. It's our human instinct to just think of the worst case scenario or to worry about the worst possible outcome. So I love that. And coping with anxiety, yeah, that's huge. And I feel like even especially in the last year and a half with COVID, a lot of people will blame it on stress with COVID. And, I've been navigating through that myself as well. So it doesn't happen overnight, but you learn to sit in silence and just really go inward. what made you, like, what were you studying? Did that help you at all with your growth?
Yeah, so I was basically doing my master's in public health, and it was, for me, it was a great experience coming to Canada. The education system is, I love how it is here, and I know a lot of undergrads would not agree with me, but they are pretty supportive of students, to be honest. Like, compared to the system that I come from, where it's dog eat dog, like you got to scramble over each other just to get the top rank to even be visible, right? So I come from that kind of a competitive, very competitive system. And the same kind of system that's in the States, to be honest. I find that similarity like crazy, that what exists in the States and in Asia, South Asia especially, it's like so similar. Like how it's like, it's not enough to just be with good marks. There's like pre-med like students who are like national athletes, dancers, like everything, and that's just crazy. Like, but yeah. So when I was doing my master's, I had some academic struggles, right? Of course, coming to a new sort of system, and to be honest, like we didn't use computers much when I did my undergrad, which is early 2000s back in India.
Yeah.
Unless it was just to like do a poster or do like PowerPoint presentations. Other than that, academically, we didn't really use computers much. So that was one big change that I had. But I just want to specifically talk about how anxiety got, it really came out, I would say, showed itself up in my life. I didn't even have that awareness about how debilitating it could be. Okay. So just an example, the first actually example is I had this one exam that was coming up, and I had prepared super well for it. Like I had gone through the whole, like whatever was coming, whatever chapters were there 3 times, not once, 3 times. So that should give me a lot of confidence, right? Yeah. And I'm a late sleeper. I sleep late, which is very unhealthy. I do not recommend it, but that's just me. And that night, specifically the day before the exam, that night, I was like, you know what? I'm going to sleep early. I'm going to get my 9 hours of sleep, 8 to 9 hours, and I'm going to go and I'm going to rock the exam. Guess what? I get into bed, sheets on. I am staring at the ceiling till 5:30 a.m. in the morning with palpitation.
Wow.
So every trick I tried to sleep, no. 5:30 a.m., just lying in bed, not a minute of sleep, get up. I guess it's not just the studies, right? I had a lot of other stressors. I was in a new place on my own. You know, there's that stress too. You can't discount that. So, well, I walk into class. Now, till then, I was like, hey, man, it's okay. I didn't get to sleep, but I prepared well. I get the paper, the question paper, get my questions. I blanked out.
Whoa.
So this was very, very tough for me. Like I had prepared a week, like literally a couple of days before this test. I had finished the whole thing 3 times, not once, twice, but 3 times. And I blanked out. Like I could not put a word on the paper.
Wow. I
literally had to sum up my creative writing skills to just get some answers in there. Like I completely forgot what I had studied. I walked out of that exam hall like shocked. I was like, and I hadn't slept, of course. So I was like, hey, I need to get to the bottom of this. This isn't right. Because in the past, I lived in my family, with my community, and whatever anxiety I had, of course, it was extreme at times, but somehow there was that support system. But here I was with no support system, and I hadn't really gotten close to any friends that I have now. And that's where I found myself. So I was like, I need to see a medical professional for this. And I went to see a doctor, and she said that I have anxiety. And she actually told me that she had anxiety in med school and she had taken these meds. Now, my attitude towards medications is always very conservative. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to get on these meds. And I didn't even take them. I took one pill once for one exam, which I'd studied well for and was not even stressed out about. So I didn't know how the effect was going to be. So yeah, I forgot about it. I had my, what's it called? I wouldn't call it an outburst, but I would have those moments where my anxiety would get so much that I would have to scream, like literally scream out. And then my throat would be sore for days. And this is when stress got too much. Yeah. And yeah, so these are the things that happened and made me realize that I need to work on this. And then I took help from the medical professionals, and they actually streamlined the help that I could get. But not only are the medications helpful, I would say, I think more it's also about like how I had already started off making strategies for myself, personal strategies to work with anxiety and not be completely dependent on pharmacological help. So I think a combination of that would be very helpful for people who have a diagnosed condition. So yeah, so that's what happened to me, being aware of my obstacle that I had to face, and it will not end. So just like life, it keeps going. It's a part of you, Yeah. Don't take it as negative. It's just a part of you, and it's just like how you learn to handle your anger in public. You just learn to handle it better. And there are some things that my wife even tells me that, hey, you're actually pretty good at this, how you're handling yourself. I'm like, well, it takes time to develop stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But what's important is that first step of realization and finding out that where do I have to work on myself, which is very important. And that takes time too, but to all the listeners, do not give up.
Yeah, you said it so well. Do not give up. There's going to be bad days. There's going to be good days. But I love how you said that something like anxiety is part of you. It's not all of you. There's so much more. Yeah. Like you had integrity. You had determination, right? To go after your goals regardless of what the outcome is. And the thing is too, is that it is how we respond versus react. When we're more aware and we're working on personal strategies, we will learn how to respond, because there's so many things going on outside of us. We can't always control those things, but we can control how we respond and what's going on inside of us. And when we start there, we will see a different world. I want to also just go back a little bit and talk about, do you have a definition for manifestation? Like, what does that mean to you? For me personally, I struggled with it at first, just because, just a little background on me, Faisal, is that I was told by psychologists I would never make it through university because I wasn't smart enough. I had a learning disability with my hearing. And oddly enough, I have to listen to people now as I coach and counsel them. It's really ironic that that's actually become my strength now, as opposed to back in high school, it was my weakness. I couldn't learn just by listening to a teacher. I needed to visually see it. But now I've worked on strategies where my hearing is like top notch. So sometimes our weaknesses become our strengths. But I used to focus on what I didn't have and come from a place of lack and impossibility. But manifestation to me is really focusing on what I do have, because what we focus on grows. But I would love to know what your definition of manifestation is, and even if it's evolved over the years, so our listeners know, okay, like what does manifestation even mean? Because it's a big word that gets thrown around a lot,
Yeah, for me, I feel it's more of a step-by-step process. And it's not like, voila, boom, here's your Ferrari.
So, that'd be great, but
I know, because this is something I learned about, is that there's positive thoughts and there's negative thoughts, And each requires energy that you put in, you know, for it to influence your life. So, and it won't be immediate, thankfully. So when you think negative about something, thank God that it doesn't happen. At the same time, we have to respect the fact that no matter how positive or how goal-oriented you would be, it will take time. That's how it works. That's how this plane of existence works. You know, it takes a little bit of time. It takes little fragments of thoughts, little positive actions together, you know, as cumulative parts to get you closer to your goal, or get you closer to your dream, what you want in life, right? So that's how it is, and that's how I look at it. That for the listeners, especially, like, who are struggling every day, there's this one exercise I started with initially when I started on my journey to work with my anxiety. Is the moment you feel that darkness is like creeping into your head or your mind, give yourself a couple of seconds of, not even minutes, I'm saying seconds of mindfulness. Like, you know, that's why mindfulness is so big, you know, for me. Gratefulness, all that comes later, but the fact where you just realize that you as a living entity, as a human body, you're breathing, you're alive.
Yeah.
A couple of seconds. This is just a small exercise. Like, wait, stop your thoughts. You've been hit by stress. You can stop your thoughts. You can. I believe in everybody who's listening, you have the ability to stop them, like straight up stop a wall and be like, okay, look around, distract. Visual is huge on this. With your eyes, you can distract. These are all neural impulses, you know. So you distract yourself at that point and be like, you have these breathing techniques. It's not even like a technique. I would just say, just do slow breathing for even 10 to 15 seconds, deep breaths. That helps you realize that, hey, I'm here. Okay? Breathe. And that will help you formulate your thoughts. That will help you guard your mind and your heart and your soul from all that negativity trying to creep in. So that is your gatekeeper, your own breath, you know? So it's the most simplest thing, but I see it happening to me every day. Sometimes you can control it, sometimes you can't, but it's all about the frequency of success for it to work overall. It's all about the frequency of success. Out of 10 times, hey, you know what? At this point in my life, when I was 22, it's only once out of 10 times that I succeeded.
Yeah.
Now I'm 27, for example, I'm succeeding at least 6 times. That is a huge jump. You will see things happening in your life that haven't been as positive as before. I mean, they're happening that are as or more positive than before. Sorry, I put that wrong. So that is the most palpable change you will see happening around you in your circumstances. And, you know, basically when you're proactive, that is the biggest step you can take towards making your life better. Is just being proactive towards the good stuff that you want in your life. You know, give your heart that one gift, because you know you're going through such darkness or whatever right now, and you're going through so much anxiety. Give your heart that gift. Like, it goes through so much all day. Just a couple of seconds of being like, hey, you know what? I'm alive, and it's all good.
Yes. And I love that you included, you know, like when you take that moment to breathe, those even just few seconds, it reminds you that you're here. Because again, we can get so focused on worrying about tomorrow or worrying about what we should have done yesterday that we're not even fully present when we do the dishes, right? And so something that I do too is I breathe in and I say, I am, and then let out here. And it just grounds me, because it can be so easy to be like, let the chaos of emotions and stress dictate how you're feeling and that anxiety, and you feel it racing. And you're right when saying it might not truly ever leave. It's how you cope with it. It's how you be proactive. If you're having a good day today or a bad day, like you can start doing these techniques now so that when you do have stress come up, you remind yourself, okay, these thoughts are just thoughts. And I know things to help me and that will progress me forward. Now, something that you've told me separate from this, and I would love to dig into it, is that you studied dentistry before you did your master's, right? Mm-hmm. And so the thing is too, is that when we go after our goals, when we believe in our dreams, sometimes they don't go the way we want them to go, right? We can be committed to the process and then the unexpected happens. So how has it been for you to, I wouldn't say start over, but just, you did something else in India, then you came here, right? You were working for Strive, which is, for people who don't know, it's a ministry where we helped people or adults with disabilities integrate into the community. And that's very different than dentistry, right? So can you shed a little bit of light on, you had these goals and maybe they didn't go as expected?
Well, I would like to refer to that as starting over, actually. There's nothing wrong in that.
Yeah.
I think it's a very positive thing. Just the terminology, the phrase of I started over instead of, I had to switch my life again. I had to do a lot of stuff to get back into, work mode. But no, I started over. I moved and I was expecting it when I moved here. So I took it in. I did have a lot of challenges, to be honest, because just the academic process, the life here, the personality of people, emotions, which have been, I'm a big believer in emotional intelligence. Okay.
Me too. I love that.
Yeah. And I know today's world, the corporate world, I worked in the corporate world too back home. So I know they love to have everything being constant, including moods and behaviors, right? I wouldn't say against it. I have a different thought about it. I believe we as human beings have the right to our emotions, have the right to explode, implode. You just have the right to it, you as a human body. And no society, no system can dictate how you react or respond. Mm-hmm. Okay, I believe a lot in individual freedom. Okay, the live and let live thing, I believe in it a lot. So I'm just trying to collect my thoughts here.
Take your time, it's all good.
Yeah, so what I'd like to say is, through those challenges, I think I found my inner strengths too. With each upcoming challenge, I saw that, because in the past, whatever I said, the people around me would overpower me. If I had solutions, they'd be like, okay, you do this, you do this. Unfortunately, that's the social system I came from, where it was all about dominating the other person's thought process. And some people thrive in it. I did not. I faced a lot of challenges. I felt a lot of angst inside me. I think that's what led to that anxiety just getting so extreme. So I found that balance here, because I would be faced with an obstacle every day and I had to handle it on my own. Mm-hmm. And that is where your point comes in, that what you were talking about moving out of your comfort zone. It's not going to be easy. I guarantee you that. But it is going to be so worth it. Yeah. It took me my journey here of falling, getting up to realize how strong I can be. Mm-hmm. About what I can provide to my community or the society that I live in. So that discovery would not have been possible without the obstacles.
And I love that, because if it did all happen overnight, would we really even be grateful? Would we really even enjoy life for what we have right now? I'm grateful that there have been obstacles, because we get to redefine failure. A lot of people will look at failure and be like, oh, I messed up. I'm not worth it. I'm not good enough. And they treat it like an endpoint, where failure, to me, I embrace failure as part of my journey, because when I actually make a mistake, it's not really a wrong turn, or I don't have to have regret about it, because I get to look at it and be like, okay, what did I learn from the situation? When I fell down and got back up again, what did I specifically learn that I can bring with me on my back as I continue on in this journey? Because if everything came easy, I don't even think I would have the awareness to realize to do the inner work. And so when those things happen and we look at it that way, we have more strength for the road ahead. So I 110% believe in that. Thank you for sharing that. I want to you've had some exciting things happen, especially in the last year. You've gotten married, you have a daughter, right? Those are really exciting things. And I think you shared with me before we recorded that you're back doing more schooling. So I would love for you to share where you are right now specifically. You've had these obstacles. Life can still have ups and downs, but what's going on with you right now that's just so full of life and joy?
Well, what brings me joy is I have a family now here of my own. I have my partner, my wife, and my baby girl. And it's been a beautiful process, because with the COVID situation, we couldn't really interact with with a lot of people, and I couldn't have my family over during the whole childbirth process and everything. So we were literally just the two of us, just the both of us, like going to the hospital, nobody allowed inside, just me and her. And post-delivery, got back. It's been great. It's been a learning process. I do want to add something that right now I'm going through some positives, but there was a big challenge in my life. There were two huge setbacks. I wouldn't call them setbacks. There were two huge obstacles that I had in the past, where the first one being the passing away of my late mother, and who was like a central figure for me for moral support. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners have that one figure or friend, in the family or in the community, who they look up to, who they go to for support, emotional support. And what would that person do? What would I do if that support just went away suddenly? And for them, I would like to say is that initially there's going to be shock. I don't want to sound too negative, but these are things that we need to dwell upon, and think about in order to just be stronger every day for ourselves. Just in order to not be shocked to such an extent that it sort of degrades whatever success you've had working on yourself. So I would say that initially I was in shock, but I realized that our life is not infinite, right? And you have to come to terms with the existence and non-existence of things, or human bodies, around us. And you have to realize what role they play in your life. And I personally took it as that her role was to nurture me, to raise me to a certain time. And after that time, she had to go to a different level or plane to exist. So that's how I took it as, and this is how a lot of people should also take when they lose out on partners, when they lose out on close members of the family, or it's just friends who are just splitting ways, right? It doesn't, of course, the initial reaction would be negative, but I'm a firm believer, whatever happens for a reason.
Yes.
And that is my reason to it. The second big obstacle I had was my personal health obstacle, which is of getting cancer. I had renal cancer. And to be honest, I did not have my family here. I did not even tell them. I didn't tell my dad at that point because I didn't want to stress him out. It really shook me up, the diagnosis. And that time when I waited for my surgery appointment to come made me realize that I'm way more stronger than I realized. Way more strong. And it also made me realize the importance of being there for people who are diagnosed with severe medical conditions.
Yes.
You know, as much as they put on a face, because during that time when I was diagnosed, I worked every day. I was coming to work, but the realization that there's something inside my body which has a very high probability of killing me.
Yeah.
It was tough. It was tough, but it's not impossible. And of course, losing an organ to it too, that was another thing. I smile when I look at my scar on my stomach now, because so much has happened over time, and it's just that I'm not the same person anymore. And I see the growth that's happened. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be alive. For a person who didn't think who was going to survive, is married, has a child.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course there's going to be obstacles, but when I look at this, sort of dulls that down for me. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Wow. I didn't even know you had that. Thank you for sharing that. How long ago was that?
This is 2018.
Okay. So that's fairly recent.
Yes.
And, you know, I always say, look back on your life when you want to look at how far you've come, right? You
Yes.
would be facing a new obstacle today, and it can be very easy to go back to old patterns of, oh, this is going to be impossible. How am I going to get through this? But then what I love to do for myself is to remind myself when I was in a similar spot where I didn't know how I was going to get through it, because we can't go above it. We can't go around it. We have to go through it. And I realized there's been so many times in my life where I thought it was impossible, or I didn't know how I was going to get out of a certain situation. And cancer is huge. That is a big word, and it's scary. And I'm so happy. I'm so grateful you are alive as well, because there's so much more life to live. And I always say, trust the process. Hold on to your goals, hold on to your dreams, but trust the process, because unexpected things are going to happen. But what happens when the unexpected is painful? What happens when the bad news, when we lose someone we love, when we get a diagnosis like cancer or another disease? How do we navigate through that? And the thing is too, is that sometimes you don't have to answer that, but it's the fact of life is both beautiful and messy. And if you can embrace both, the beauty wins no matter what. And there's still so much more beauty. You have a wife, you have a baby, and you are still working on your goals. And there's never, I believe, and you can shed what you believe in this, but I don't believe that there's necessarily an arrival. We are always evolving. We're always growing no matter what. We'll get to the place where we want to be, but then it's like, okay, where else am I going to grow? How else am I going to learn? And that's the beautiful journey of this life. And so celebrate who you are right now, because you don't know what tomorrow is going to hold. Celebrate right now. Bring yourself into that moment and really get in touch with, are you thinking negatively or positive? You get to choose how you decide to live. And that starts with your thoughts and how you go about getting your goals or stepping into the next step. So thanks so much, Faisal. There's so much here. Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners about all these things you've navigated?
I do want to add something about what helped me deal with stress on a daily basis, apart from my coping strategies. I actually got into strength training and I prescribed that to anybody of any age, of any presenting gender or sex, everybody out there. The potential of the human body to recover, the potential of serotonin, the potential of physical and mental exercise to help a person deal with a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety on a daily basis is I can't even emphasize it enough. I would recommend everybody to, whoever's listening, to give it a shot once and see. And just like your coping strategies, it won't happen overnight. But eventually, at some point, you'll realize that physical training actually helps the mindset improve too. There are people who have limitations, but even for them, there's a lot of physical training which is for a lot of people with physical, challenges and disabilities. So please, I'm not telling everybody to go join a gym or work out. I'm just telling to explore it as an avenue. And it's not necessary that it would work for everybody, but what wouldn't work is when you don't give it a shot.
Yes.
So stay positive, and a lot of love for individuals out there who are being diagnosed or treated for cancer, especially. A lot of love and care for you guys, a lot of prayers for you. I just got a little glimpse into your lives. I did not have terminal cancer. Mine was just a stage 2. But I can't even imagine how it is for them going through that chemotherapy, radiotherapy every other day, and just facing life, with that event, that instability existing with them. So yeah, that's my message then.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Sarah. Thanks for having me. It's been great to have this conversation. And yeah, it's nice to see you after a while.
Yes. This has been so good, so life-giving. I'm excited for the rest of my day now because of the positive you shared here. And I think this is a great way to wrap up of just, that's a great strategy goal or a great coping strategy. And I want the listeners to really, it can be hard to do some of this stuff, but like Faisal just said, how long do you want to wait until you find out? Like, the worst thing you can do is not try. Step out, explore, and get in touch with even just one coping strategy, one proactive strategy you can start today, so that you can continue moving on forward, because you're living your life, you're here, and we're excited for your future.
Hey, Rebecca, I so enjoyed Faisal's story. He's someone that I had the honor of actually working with, and just being so inspired by how he lived, how he interacted with the clients at the place we both worked at. And I'm so glad that people get to listen to his story, because there was so much just motivation to keep going wherever you are in life. Just keep going. But I would love to know what your biggest takeaway was from this podcast episode.
Okay, so can I have 2? Is that allowed?
Yeah, that's allowed.
So my heart absolutely broke when he said, back home, I had family, I had a support system. And when I moved here, I didn't. And I think I often take for granted the support I have around me. They may not all be in my hometown, but I've got people that have my back. If I ever need something, I always have at least one person I can call. And so the takeaway there for me was a reminder that if you are in a good place, if you are in a place where you can offer support to someone, please do that. Find ways to reach out and someone, an outlier. If you're in high school, if it's that person that doesn't really talk to anybody, in college, the person who doesn't go to the social events, or at work, the new person. We all need to find ways to be that support. If you're in a place where you can do that, please do. And if you're in a place where you need support, reach out to us. I think that, Sarah, you and I have tons of experiences and tons of friends that would love to wrap their arms around people who need some support. And so I would say that was I just got this punch in the gut feeling when he said that here he didn't have the support. And that's going to sit with me for a while. And I realized that wasn't what the entire episode was about, but that really stuck out to me. Reminding me not to take things for granted, and to lean into my support and then be that support for other people as well. But the other thing I love about his story is the practical, tangible stuff he talked about managing anxiety and depression. And yet he also didn't shy away from medication. And that's like my heart, because that's what we're trying to do here, right? And we're trying to give people those tools so they can just have take that next step. And so I'm so thankful he was willing to share his story today.
Yeah, and he shared so many. He was just very real and raw, sharing those parts of his story. And he also shared just some great tips of what got him through, because, you know, medication is great and knowing that you might need that, but then it's the lifestyle, it's the mindset that goes hand in hand with that. And if we aren't realizing that we need to probably change some part of our lifestyle and mindset, not just rely on medication, that is huge as well. And so, you know, one of the things that stuck out to me was just letting go of heavy expectations that you have on yourself, so you can take that one step at a time, that it's okay that it takes time, that nothing happens overnight, that we are all a work in progress and life is a journey and we get to love our way through life. I don't want any of us to have to suffer our way through life. And I love how he even just changed his wording even while he was on the air with me. He's like, he switched problem to obstacle, and, you know, oh, I've got this problem, I've got these issues, or you can say I've got this obstacle. And what's an obstacle? An obstacle is something you have to go through, right?
Yeah.
And so it's, again, just observing your thoughts and being really mindful of how you're viewing things, how you're viewing yourself. And yeah, I have a question for our listeners. It's just, what is a heavy expectation that you're placing on yourself that's not necessary, that you can let go of? So then the next step is yours, that you can take that next step and not have to worry about, okay, a week from now, 6 months from now. You're right here, right now. And we all have expectations we place on ourselves that don't necessarily need to be there. And when we have that reality check, we can put some things in perspective as well.
Absolutely. And I loved the other thing that he changed, because he said that he started over, but he didn't see that as a negative thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Just mind blowing. And I was so thankful that he said that, because I have had to start over with different things multiple times in my life. And every time I'm thankful for it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so thankful that he was willing to share. And I really do want to hear people's feedback too. Did you try some of the tips that he offered? Did you, what did you think about what he said? I mean, this is all part of us creating our community on Facebook too. So we would love to hear from you guys, social media, about what the most helpful thing that he said was.
Yeah. All right. I think that's great, Rebecca. And yeah, I'm going to take some of the advice he gave into my life today and go for it.
Let's do it.
Thanks for listening to the State of Potentiality podcast, where we share stories of overcoming adversity each episode. If this episode resonated with you, click the follow button and share the story with 3 friends, or give us a review on iTunes. You can now join our Facebook group to get more insight, inspiration, and practical, tangible tips to help you grow every day. Just search for the State of Potentiality. As always, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook, as well as our website, www.stateofpotentiality.ca. Remember, friends, it is what it is. Make something good.